presents a formal legal complaint filed by Andrea Sanchez against various defendants, including the International Christian Church, Inc., the City of Angels International Christian Church, and individual church leaders. The central allegations revolve around systemic sexual abuse and cover-up within the church organizations, which Sanchez contends have created an environment conducive to such abuses. The complaint specifies that the case is governed by California Code of Civil Procedure 340.16, focusing on damages resulting from sexual assault that occurred after Sanchez reached the age of majority. It highlights a culture of psychological manipulation, control, and coercion within the church, suggesting that these tactics enable sexual predators to operate without fear of accountability. The complaint provides an introduction detailing how the ICC and its related structures prioritize financial gain through tithing, often at the expense of the safety and well-being of vulnerable members, particularly women and children. It outlines the church's hierarchical structure, which is allegedly designed to suppress dissent and keep abuses hidden. Sanchez asserts that the church integrates concealment and victim suppression into its fundamental operations, equating allegations against leaders with attacks on the church itself. Jurisdiction and venue for the case are argued to be appropriate in Los Angeles, California, given that much of the alleged abuse and cover-up happened in that locale. Additionally, the complaint delves into the history of the church, illustrating the manipulative nature of its practices and the role of key individuals, including founder Kip McKean, who allegedly orchestrated a network of churches that function under similar abusive practices. Allegations include that McKean downplayed instances of sexual abuse in early years, establishing a pattern of concealment that allowed abuse to proliferate. In detailing the general allegations against the church, the complaint identifies that the ICC utilizes psychological control and abuse, positioning it as a cult-like organization. It describes their systematic indoctrination techniques that teach compliance and rigid conformity to church doctrine, fostering an atmosphere where victims are often blamed for the abuse they endure. The complaint also illustrates the damaging effects of these practices, noting cases of extensive trauma, mental health issues, and an insular culture that discourages reporting of abuses to outside authorities. Specific attention is given to the children's ministry, known as Kids Kingdom, which allegedly facilitates environments where grooming and abuse can occur. Sanchez's complaint claims that children are taught to obey authority figures without question, allowing predatory individuals access to vulnerable populations. Furthermore, it notes a pattern of physical abuse, justified by misinterpretations of Scripture, with church instructions suggesting corporal punishment that results in severe emotional and physical effects on children. The document details testimonies from former members and experts, including references to many individuals who have escaped the church's clutches and corroborated claims of widespread abuse. Some former members cite emotional and psychological harm, describing it as an environment that not only enables but also condones abuse. The testimony reveals that many survivors experienced similar patterns of grooming and manipulation, reinforcing Sanchez's claims that these practices are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader, systemic issue within the ICC and ICOC. The complaint further directs attention to multiple instances of unreported abuse involving church members who later faced criminal charges for sexual offenses, exemplifying a failure to protect vulnerable individuals within the congregation. Specific named perpetrators are cited, demonstrating a disturbing trend of enabling abusive behavior rather than confronting it. Sanchez's allegations culminate in personal narratives of her experiences with abuser Jordan Ybarra, who is described as having exploited her naivety and the predatory environment fostered by the church. The complaint asserts that the strict social controls and hierarchical structure put in place by church leaders allowed Ybarra to manipulate and abuse her without repercussions, again underscoring the broader patterns of abuse and silence throughout the church environment. In conclusion, Sanchez's complaint seeks to challenge the power dynamics that allow such abuses to persist and calls for accountability from the ICC, its leaders, and the larger network from which they operate. The carefully structured argument highlights both personal trauma and systemic failures, painting a picture of an organization steeped in victimhood perpetuation rather than restorative justice. The hope of the complaint lies not only in seeking damages, but also in uncovering the truth about the practices within these church organizations, bringing justice to the victims of a culture that has, for too long, gone unchecked.